So Ron Gibson is, I think he uses the phrase, I've heard this third hand, not from the wise man himself, that 100 handshakes a week is what you need to achieve to grow your business. So not only 100 handshakes a week, but if you're achieving those 100 handshakes a week, there's no point. Jen Pryor, sit down. Seriously. I'm splitting you girls up. Even if you shook 1,000 hands a week, it would be meaningless if you didn't have a strategy and a system to follow up. So those of you who feel following up is salesy, all I have to say is get over it. And if you feel I'm offending you, then ring me tomorrow and we'll have a little powwow about it. Most people thank me when I follow up because they were meaning to get back to you, but life gets busy. So Ron Gibson was our keynote speaker last December, and it was interesting, the social media comments afterwards, because everyone was talking a little bit about marriage for a business networking keynote. And there'll be more open networking after our presentation, so I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer any questions about that presentation if you were unfortunately not in that room. I have a lot of respect for this gentleman, and every time I hear him speak, I learn a huge amount. But what I have absolute admiration for as well, he's a very, very professional speaker and doesn't need a PowerPoint presentation. In my world, you're a god, young Ron Gibson. I just think that is fantastic because that is something that I don't achieve. I can do 10-minute, 20-minute presentations without a presentation, but I'm just called lazy. I haven't tested myself, challenged myself to do otherwise. Anyway, that's enough about me, and I'm sure Ron's going to share more about himself, but he is here to share with us what is your follow-up system and a lot more around that, so please make him welcome.
Can you all hear? Bad luck. I'm not standing on the stage just yet. It's very bright here. Can I move over here? Is that better? Okay. All right. Who was at the presentation I made down at Fremantle last year? Oh, because I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing again tonight. Not really. Look, I want to ask you some questions. I'm not here to teach you anything tonight. I'm not here to lecture you with stuff. I'm here to make you think about stuff. I want you to think about the effort that you put into building relationships with people. There's a hell of a lot of meeting people for the first time and hitting it off with people for the first time and swapping business cards with someone for the first time and following up with them for the first time and then inviting them to link up with you on LinkedIn and guess what happens next? Nothing. Now, what's the point of meeting somebody in the first place if you're not going to build the friendship? So I want to talk about the difference between networking and socialising, because if you don't know the difference, you probably aren't networking. And I want to talk about the difference between networking and selling, because if you're getting them confused, you're rubbing people the wrong way. And I want to give you a whole bunch of questions to think about, because your answer to the questions I'm going to give you will help you figure out in your own mind what your strategy is, what your plan is, how serious you are about this relationships thing. I don't like the word networking, I never have. But I've run a business for 25 years educating people on how to do it and how to get results from it. It's about building friendships. It's about making friends with people, sincere, real friends, based on sincere, authentic conversation, no bullshit. No manipulating and trying to coerce people into sort of doing something and accepting something and being something because you want to get something out of them. That ain't networking. That's using people. And that's creating a bad reputation for yourself. But I am going to focus on the follow-up. One cup of coffee is never enough. One breakfast with someone's never enough. It's like dating. One kiss is never enough. One follow-up is never enough. One phone call is never enough. And this is the challenge that you all have. In your crammed working routines, with all the other things you have to fit into your working day and your normal day and the weekends and stuff, how do you find time in your busy schedules to build and maintain relationships? Because if you don't, all this networking stuff will never work for you. You might get a few small, fast hits, a transaction here and a transaction there, and maybe a new customer or a new client every now and again, but it won't sustain your business. It won't grow your business. So here's the first question. I would suggest you write the questions down because you can revisit these questions, and your answer to these questions will tell you exactly how you're going with this networking thing and whether or not it's working for you. The first question is this: who are you having an early morning cup of coffee with? Underline early morning. I don't mean 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't mean 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. I had a 7:30 this morning. Well, actually, I had a 6 o'clock this morning with my 21-year-old son, who's his birthday today. But then I had a 7:30 this morning. Actually, it was a breakfast with a client of mine over at Kalis. You know the little cafe over there? Fantastic. And while I was there, I ran into my old pal Gus Erdy, who I've done a lot of work with over the years. Gus is one of the top lawyers in town, very successful. He's a master at keeping in touch. Gus was in Canberra just the other day, 2 hours time difference. I'm lying in bed watching something or other on television, and my phone goes beep, beep, beep. Actually, it's a duck sound. Quack, 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 quack. And there's Gus. G'day, Ron. Just wondering how you're travelling. Regards, Gus from Canberra. Gus is a master at staying in touch. So I go back and say, Gus, you should be asleep by now, because I nearly am. And I said, travelling real good, I'll be in touch, see you next week. So I caught up with Gus again today. Every time I catch up with Gus, we talk about stuff, real stuff. Not small talk, but real stuff. And I'm going to give you the definition of networking as opposed to just socialising. If there's no talk about how you can help each other, if there's no agreement to do something as a result of the conversation, if there's no sharing of stuff, information, ideas that you can use and they can use to improve the circumstances of your life and theirs, if there's no follow-up to carry the conversation further, or oftentimes Gus and I will say, I'll send you a note when I get back to the office and we'll lock something in for another 30 days or 60 days' time. So there's always an ongoing thing. A bit like dating and building relationships in your personal life. You've got to keep the momentum going. You've got to keep seeing each other. Because if you don't, the relationship dies. And so do all your initial efforts to build it in the first place. That dies. And your wherewithal to get referrals from people, for those people to recommend you and endorse you and open doors for you, and say great things about you on LinkedIn and all those other areas, it all dies. It doesn't happen. Because you thought one cup of coffee was enough and I'll just stick them on a spam list and just send them a lot of shit every month. Sell them stuff. That ain't networking. So if there's no talk about how you can help each other, if there's no agreement to do something, if there's no opportunity to pursue afterwards, if there's no sharing of relevant, pertinent, interesting information that you can walk away and say, hey, that was good, I learned something today from Ron, or from Mary Ann, or from Sharon, or from Ian, or someone else. And if there's no follow-up to say, let's meet again, when's a good time to catch up? I have a number of my clients and my customers and people that I work with and provide referrals to me and I do to them, and we catch up on a regular basis, once a month or once every 2 months, to keep the conversation going. And during those conversations, there's 3 things that you've got to learn about people, and 3 things they've got to learn about you. You've got to learn about their business. What is their business about? You've got to understand their business. And if you ain't ever been to their business and sat down with them in their business and got them to give you a tour of their business and how they operate and what their processes are and how they follow up with people and how they deal with people and how they process people and what their customer service standards are, if you don't understand that about the people that you're networking with, there's not much you can do to say about them because you don't know them well enough. So you've got to understand their business. You've got to understand what their magic is, what they're really good at, what their value proposition is, the outcomes they create for people, the successes they create. You've got to understand that kind of stuff. And they've got to understand the same kind of stuff about you. And you tell them once, give them a presentation, give them a brochure. Do you think they remember? They don't. Neither do you. So you've got to keep on maintaining and building, having these conversations. And the third thing you've got to understand about everybody in your networks is who are their clients? And who aren't their clients? Who don't they want to do business with? Who do they don't want to talk to? But more importantly, who are their clients? I love asking the question when I've earned the right to ask it. Never on the first date. That's a big mistake. People ask for too much too soon. Fellas, you don't ask the girl to marry you on the first date. It just doesn't happen. And if you did, she'd run a mile. Unless she's just a desperate type. In which case, you better run a mile. And it works both ways. Works both ways. Works both ways. So are you networking or are you socialising? Because if you're just socialising, the meetings you have, the coffees you have, the membership dues you pay, the lunches you do, they're fun, having good times, but it's not generating a good, profitable flow of business consistently for you. So the first question is, as I said, who are you having a cup of coffee with, an early one? Unless you've got a relationship with somebody, so you're selling them already, or they're a customer, or they're a client, or you've got a good, strong, loyal connection there, they ain't got time to talk to you between 9 and 5. They're busy doing their stuff. So if you want new clients and you want new business, you better be having early morning cup of coffee. That's really important. There is a direct correlation between the number of coffees you have and the business you get. Direct correlation. So long as you're networking rather than socialising. Next question. Who are you having breakfast with? Again, there's a direct correlation between who you have breakfast with and how many times you're having breakfast and the business you do and the referrals you get and the word of mouth that people say about you. A good answer to that first question, how many coffees you're having, have a coffee with a customer every day. And if every day is not possible, every second day. Let's do a quick survey. Who had a cup of coffee with a customer today already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 of you. So the vast majority haven't. Who had a coffee with a customer on Monday or Tuesday this week? Okay, not enough of you. If you haven't having coffees with people, then maybe someone else is having coffees with people, and maybe that someone else is getting the business. You're not a secret, I hope. You're not a secret. Spend all that time at home on the keyboards, doing the social media stuff, which you've got to do, but it ain't the silver bullet. What the silver bullet is, face to face. That's the silver bullet. Third question, who are you having lunch with? Who are you having lunch with? And who's the third party that you're bringing to the table for the other person you're having lunch with? You're not taking people to lunch to suck more work out of them or to ask them for referrals. I'm talking about taking them to lunch to introduce them to someone who they would benefit from knowing. Which leads me to my next question. Who actually made an introduction or gave a quality referral to someone today? Right. What about yesterday? What about tomorrow? Yeah. There's a direct correlation between the referrals you give and the ones you get. You want more referrals? Don't ask for them. That just pisses people off and makes them feel uncomfortable. There's a far smarter, better way to get referrals. Give them. Quality ones. And don't just say, hey, Fred, give Mary Ann a call. She's waiting for your call. That ain't a referral. A referral is what I'm doing on Friday morning at 8 o'clock at Cafe, where I've got Beatrice Servey, an architect, who I'm going to personally introduce to Tim Davies, who's a landscape expert. And I've spoken to the both of them to make sure that they're opted into this. They both want to meet each other, and I'm going to set them up and buy them a cup of coffee at Cafe in Subiaco next to the railway station, 8 o'clock on Friday morning. That's an introduction. And anything short of that is lazy. Wouldn't you like to be introduced in the same way that I'm introducing Beatrice and Tim? Isn't that the way that you'd like to be introduced to your future clients and customers and referral sources? Well, that's what you've got to do for other people. Because in the process, you educate them to do just that for you. So who are you having lunch with? Next question. Who are you having a beer with after hours? Or a glass of champagne? I haven't told you how you're going to fit all this. Danny, you've got to do this stuff.
I know, I get it.
You've got to do this. So you don't have a beer after work with everyone every night, every day of the week. Then again, I like the people in this room. But, you know, when you have a drink with people at the bar and you've got a couple of the mates together and maybe there's a mix of women and a mix of the blokes and all blokes or all women, doesn't matter. But there's 2, 3 or 4 of you and you have a drink down at Steve's or the Subiaco Hotel or wherever else it might be that's convenient. And you get there at 5 and you go home at 6 or 6:30 to your wife, your family, your husband, if you're lucky. Well, there's a direct correlation between the amount of drinks that you drink and how much business you're going to get. Next question. Where are you doing your networking before 9 and after 5? Not between 9 and 5, except at lunchtime. But where are you doing your networking before 9 and after 5? 50% of your opportunities to do more business in the future are going to come from the people you haven't met yet. 50%. And 40% of relationships begin in the social zone. Well, people have got a coffee or a lamington or a beer or a bacon and eggs in their hand. They're the best environments to kickstart a relationship. So where are you doing your networking? If you're running a business, if you want your business to be successful, you need to be going somewhere to do some networking twice a week. Twice a week. You need to be having lunch once a week. You need to be doing breakfast once a week. And you need to have a cup of coffee with someone once a day if you can. That's the ideal scenario. If you can't do just what I've told you, ratchet it back a little. But they're the things that you have to do. You've got to give referrals to get them. And when you follow up with people, the best way to follow up with someone is to help them with something. And if you've been socialising in environments like this, you haven't gathered enough information. You haven't learned enough about the person to be able to follow up with them effectively, other than to say, it was nice to meet you at Fleur's Do the other night, and I learned a bit about your business, and check out the brochures attached, you'll learn all about my business, and if ever I can help you, give me a call or something. That ain't following up. You know, to me that's selling. What's your name with the sunglasses?
Michelle.
Michelle. You nailed it up here a few moments ago when you said, it's not about selling to the people you know. It's about doing business through the people you know with the people that they know. That's where the lion's share of the business comes from. So there's 50 or 60 people in the room here. Multiply that by 200 plus. There's a lot of opportunities here in the room if you just bother to build relationships with each other. Spend time with each other and find out from each other what an opportunity is. And wake up in the morning, instead of thinking about yourself and your business, think about their business. If you don't like what I'm saying, don't bother with networking. Pay somebody to telemarket appointments for you. Start doing more cold calling. Go and spend another $50,000 on the website. And good luck. Because that's what you're going to need. It's the handshake that is the tool, the way to build relationships from which referrals and direct business will come in time, when they're ready, when they believe in you, when they trust you enough, when they understand you enough. And what's the other thing? If they like you enough. Because if they don't like you enough, doesn't matter how bloody good you are, they aren't giving you their business, and they certainly aren't telling the world about you. So what's your likability? Think about it. Work on your likability. Work on helping people. When you sit down with somebody, ask them, who's a good connection for you? Who are the kind of people that you want to talk to? Who's your perfect client? And write the answers down, because you'll never remember. One of the things that I think is really important, which is my next question, it's this. Who's on your conversation list? You've got to have a conversation list, otherwise your follow-up, your keeping in touch, is random, it's haphazard. It's not going to work for you. There's 4 columns to a conversation list. And until you've got 80 to 150 people on that list, you're going nowhere. Or you're struggling. Or your business is hit and miss. Or you're busy one month and you're dead quiet for the next 3. You've got to have somewhere between 80 and 150 connections. You can have 500 plus on LinkedIn, that's okay. That's a different ball game. That's not networking. That's something else. On the left-hand side of your conversation page or your conversation list is the names of your best clients, your best referral sources, other significant, influential people who you like and who like you back. There may be mentors there. There may be people from other companies that you used to work with, coaches, people you went to university with, people who like you, people who want to see you succeed, people that you like and whom you want to see succeed. You create that list. That list should be on your front mind, on your desk, not in a drawer somewhere, hidden away. You've got to be looking at that list every day. The second column is the direct phone line, the Skype address, or any other direct contact detail of that person. I'm flabbergasted by the number of people I talk to, and their best clients aren't even in their phone. They don't even have a mobile number for their clients. I hope that's not the case in this room, but you've got to have their contact details at the ready. So you can do what Gus does. You see, I think the secret to this networking thing, Danny, you said, how am I going to find time to do all this kind of stuff? Yeah, but what I'm saying here is that you can steal moments during the day. You can steal moments while you're waiting for the show to start here tonight, when you were sitting in a queue somewhere, when you were waiting for someone to turn up. You can steal moments, send a text message, flick off a very short email. I think the best way to stay in touch with people, to follow up, to keep the relationships alive, is to steal moments during the day. Gus often sends me a text message or an email on Sunday from his home study. I'm not offended by that. In fact, my best mates can call me any time of the day they like, 24/7. So it's something that you work into your routine. It becomes natural. It's a habit. The third column on your conversation list is something special about that relationship you have with that person. It might be cricket. It might be footy. It might be a personal objective or a goal or desire that you share, something in common. Their most important topic. Great question to ask people. It's not an icebreaker. You don't ask it on the first date. Too much too soon. But you need to ask people, what's the most important thing to you in your business? Because if you don't know what the most important thing to them in their business is, how do you know what to follow up with? How do you know what to stay in touch with? How do you know what to send them? Who do you know who to introduce them to? So that's the third column. They're pet topics. They're what's most important to them. Things that you've got in common. The glue, if you like, that holds the relationship together. And then the fourth column is the last time you spoke to them. Not sent them a generic email, hello everybody, g'day everybody. That's not keeping in touch, that's not building relationships, that's marketing. I'm talking about a personal dialogue, or a personal email that's gone to them, or a personal text. Or you've gone around to see them, or you've had breakfast with them, or a cup of coffee with them. This is hard work. Relationships are hard work. But you get them right, and you get your message across, and they understand your message, and they like you, they will refer you. And if they wake up one day suffering from the problem that you fix, having the aspiration that you help people attain, who are they going to call? You. And when they call, they're ready to do business. When they're talking about you behind your back and those people call, they're ready to do business. At your price. Because of the value you create. When you're chasing them, or should I say, when you're begging to do business with them, the first thing they say is what? How much? And you've got to defend price. You don't even get a chance to talk about the great value that you create for people. That's why you want the business coming to you. The best business you'll ever get is the business that comes after you. That's why you need people out there who understand your business, who understand your magic, and who understand the sorts of people that you want calling you, and they're out there telling the world about you, and your phone rings. And they're doing the begging. Have you got time? Can you fit me in? Have you got time for me? Have you got room, one more place for your seminar? They're asking you, can you fit them into your schedule? And the last thing they ask is what? How much? That's why this networking thing has to be your number one strategy. And the bulk of networking is done follow up. stay in touch, build the relationship. The girl that I'm married to now would not have married me if I didn't say to her on the night I met her, will I ever see you again? I mean, you can't use that in forums like this. or maybe you can. That's romantic networking. But when you hit it off with someone, say, hey, are you up for a coffee sometime? Can I buy you a coffee? I want to learn more about what you do. You have time for a coffee so we can carry this conversation to the next level. I know more about you and what you do. You've got to instigate the follow-up, which is what I did with Sam. Will I ever see you again? And she said, yeah, do you want to? And I said, yeah, of course I want to. How am I going to find you? Give us your phone number. Mind you, the grog was talking about now. But I had the confidence to say, give us your phone number. I didn't ask her for a phone number in the first 5 minutes. That's too desperate, too much too soon. I see it go all the time in rooms like this. I see it sometimes. When you shake someone's hand and shove a card in their face, that's face-to-face cold calling. It's too much too soon. You know where your cards go when you do that? In the toilet. Or on some kind of a spam list. And all you get from that person for the rest of your days is, will you buy from me? Don't get that reputation. Handing your card to someone, apropos of meeting them off the bat, is like going down to the Subiaco Hotel on Friday night and walking around the bar and saying, can I take you home? Can I take you home? You want to come home with me? What's your phone number? You know, too much too soon. Doesn't work. But I'm seeing it going on all the time. You've witnessed this. You've been on the receiving end of this stuff so many times, haven't you? So those questions are important. So what groups do you belong to? That's another question. You might belong to this group, which is a good thing. But you've also got to belong to another group as well. Otherwise, you've got nothing to bring to the table here for people. You're just here to milk the tank. That's not going to help you. By belonging to other groups and getting out there and meeting people, you pick up ideas that you can share with people in the room here tonight. You pick up contacts that you can share with people in the room here tonight. Different perspectives. You're someone that people want to talk to. They don't want to get away from you because you're a mine of information, you're a mine of ideas. Your mindset is, how can I help people? Then they want to help you back. I wouldn't walk out of here tonight without an agreement to help someone. In fact, the more someone's, the better. Otherwise, you just come home here. All the stuff I'm talking about, you can read on the internet. There's nothing special about what I'm saying. It's all on the internet. What's special in this room are the people sitting next to you. That's what's special. So don't walk away from here without agreeing to follow up with a few people. And don't be thinking when you meet up with them, oh, here's a chance, I want to give them a big sales pitch. Forget the sales pitch, unless they ask you for one. I never talk about my business. I never give business cards away to people until they ask me for it. And then I do that in a sparing way. I want their friendship. I want them to tell the world about me. I want their friends and their associates and their connections and their clients to be ringing me. That's what I want. And if they're ready and they want to do business with me, that's great. That's a bonus. And that's what you want from everybody in this room. And that means you've got to follow up. You've got to have a system for staying in touch. You've got to have a mindset when you meet people. How can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? What one piece of information can I share with this person to improve their circumstances? That's the mindset. And don't hold back. Don't have the attitude of scarcity where you say, oh, I'll only let her have a smidgen of what I do for free, because if she wants the rest, she's going to have to buy it off me. Usually the people that take all the information off you and never pay, we're never going to become a client anyway. For their reasons, they're never going to come to your seminars. For their reasons, they're never going to become a client or a customer of yours. But still be generous with those people, because they'll talk about you. And that's what you want, word of mouth. That makes sense? That's what you've got to do. So you need systems for this. How are we going for time? That was a pretty quick 40 minutes, wasn't it? Yes. Did you have a question, or that was just...
Sort of.
Yeah, go on. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I've just been thinking, in my experience, there's socialising and there's networking, where you're focusing on referrals and so on. But there's another level where you actually step into each other's business and apply your expertise to theirs. You might be from a completely different industry, so it's even more valuable because you have a different perspective.
Yeah.
You help them help each other to be more effective in your business.
Yeah.
What do you call that?
Collaboration. Being a friend. Being a friend. Yeah. Being a mate. That's what I call it. There's fancy names for it, net weaving and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that's okay. I call it just being a mate. And I think that's a good thing to do. And in fact, there might be some people in the room here. What's your name? Gary. Gary, there might be some people in the room here or others in other rooms where you meet up on a regular basis and you just work together to share business development ideas and marketing ideas and financial ideas and all sorts of other ideas. I think that's networking too.
So you're part of, you make a little inner circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in a mastermind group that does that. I'm finding it very valuable.
So that's networking, it's relationship building, it's a mastermind group, as you call it. It's all very important. It's not always about getting the referral. It's not always about getting the next client or the next customer. But I can tell you this, if you own a business, you're thinking about where the next customer's coming from. Okay? And you want the next customer to come from the people you know. You want them calling you. You want them introducing you to the people that they know. So what's your system for all this? Go through those questions. There's a lot of big hints there on what your system should be. Who are you taking for a coffee? Who are you meeting on a regular basis? Who are you taking to lunch? On Friday, I've got about an hour and a half with a guy called Terence Chong. He's a Chinese, Singapore accountant, financial advisor. Terence is bringing 3 of his mates, I'm bringing 3 of my mates, and another lady's bringing 3 of her mates, and we're going to have yum cha over at the Fortune 5 restaurant in Northbridge, not James Street, what's it called? James Street, yeah. So we'll get there about 12:30, we'll be all over by 2, and I'm going to bring 3 people, and she's going to bring 3 people, and he's going to bring 3 people. What do you think's going to happen? We're going to get to know each other. And we're going to find our way to say, hey, let's catch up and have a decent conversation. When's a good time for you? Can I give you a bell? So that's another collaborative thing. So you work with other people and they bring people together. It's a great thing to do. I have these little soirees at the Subiaco Hotel and other places where I team up with a couple of buddies of mine and I say, you bring your contacts, I'll bring mine, and we'll just let people mingle and introduce each other. It's not about me. Well, not directly anyway. Indirectly it is very much about me. Because guess what the one conversation is amongst everybody? How do you know, Ron? What I say about myself is bullshit. What other people say about me is the truth and a hell of a lot more powerful. So what are you doing about bringing people together? Small numbers, larger numbers. Get your mates together. Bring them together. Create opportunities for people. That's what follow-up is. That's what keeping in touch is. And a byproduct of you doing this, so long as they like you, so long as they understand your business, so long as they understand your magic, so long as they understand who your clients are, so long as they like you, I repeat that, like you, and you're staying in touch, and you're feeding them with a bit of value through your newsletters, through your emails, as long as you're doing that, the byproduct will be referrals. And if you want more referrals than you're currently getting, start giving more. Start giving more without expecting anything in return. And given a name ain't a referral. If it doesn't pan out into business, it's not a referral. It's just an intro or something else. So help people get business. Promote them. When was the last time you said to someone, or they said to you, what do you want me to say to all my mates on LinkedIn about your business? You'd fall over if someone said that to you, wouldn't you? Give me a few words to tell the world about on LinkedIn about your business. That's follow-up. That's keeping in touch. And what happens is that the other party often says, well, give me a few words about what you do and what you say, and I'll tell the world, my mob, about what you do. That's collaboration again, isn't it? We were just talking about that, Gary. There's so many things you can do. You could sit down with your LinkedIn connections at your office and say to your buddy on your conversation list, let's just go through the A's and B's. Who do you want me to introduce you to? Who's a good connection for you? Do you think they'll be moved to do the same thing for you? You can always ask them. You've earned the right to ask them to do it anyway. And of course you wouldn't have anybody sitting there showing on your contacts if you didn't trust them and rate them highly enough. There's so many things you can do to follow up with people, and I don't see people doing it enough. And maybe you don't need the 150, 80 to 150. I think you do need that for word of mouth. But you might have an inner circle of 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 people, and you catch up with them every month, every fortnight, every week, on a regular basis. And you tell stories to each other, and you have a good joke and talk about the footy and the cricket and anything else you want to talk about, the big weekend at Roddo. But you don't walk away without agreeing to do something for each other. That's the key. Don't walk away from your one-to-ones without agreeing to do something. Otherwise, you've just been socialising. Does that make sense? If you do this networking thing right, if you do it consistently, with the right people, and getting your story across, if people don't understand, I hear so many people, I ask the question, so tell me about your business, what do you do, what are you involved with, how do you get your start? And they mumble away, and at the end of 3 or 4 minutes, I still don't get what they do. Have you been in that situation with people? You know, maybe you better have a word with Tim Wise about how to tell a story. I'm not joking about that either. You've got to learn how to tell a story. You've got to learn how to get the message across in a way that they get it and they'll never forget it, because you've painted a picture in their minds of what you do and who you do it for and how you do it. That's the key. Work on your story. Work on your message. Gary was talking about collaboration. Maybe just sit down with a couple of people in the room here and say, well, what do you say when people ask you what you do? Help each other. That's really important. Otherwise you're doing all this follow-up. People don't get what you do. They've known you forever. Oh, I didn't know you did that. Isn't that true? And guess whose fault it is? Not theirs. So, with about 10 minutes to go, so that went pretty quick, 50 minutes. I'm happy to field a few questions, but have you got the guts on this follow-up thing? It's not about sending people your brochures or your next release or your new product. That's marketing. It needs to be done, but that's not follow-up. Follow-up pertains to building and maintaining the friendship, the relationship, the professional association. You've got to be out there going to networking events. If you're not, you're simply not meeting the people who can talk about you behind your back to the people they know. And they still won't do it if you don't build a connection with them. So one cup of coffee is never enough. So I went to the Duxton Hotel with Sam, and that was the follow-up, and we had a glass of wine together, and we had another glass of wine together, another glass of wine together, and she had to race off to go and see her mum. But she gave me a kiss. And I thought that was good. So I said, can I get another one of those? And she laughed, and I said, when can I see you again? She said, well, maybe we go out for dinner next week. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. Can I call you? So she said, yes. So I called her up, we went to dinner. And then we went to the movies. And then we kept on catching up, and she wanted me to meet all of her mates. So I thought that was okay. And she wanted to meet my mates. And I said, hang on. You're not meeting them. They were the guys at the bar at the Victoria Hotel on the first night I met Sam was saying, has he told you about his operation yet? That's what mates do. So I didn't want her to meet my mates, not for a while yet. And as we got together, we learned a bit more about each other, and we got fonder of each other, and we got to understand each other, and we learned about how we voted and what our values were and what's important to us and what isn't, and who we like and what our dislikes are. And as you learn these things by building relationships. And then she said one day, I want you to come and meet Mum. And I thought, yep, I want to see what you look like in 20 years, so I'll go and see your Mum. I'm joking. Actually, I'm not really. Anyway, so I went and met Mum, and Mum was gorgeous, and she thought I was okay, so I passed the test there. And then I said, you want to come home for dinner one night? And I did have ulterior motives, and she did stay, and it was good. And then I went to her place, and stayed there, and we kept on doing that, and we built a relationship. One cup of coffee is never enough. I'm trying to get the message across. One breakfast is never enough. One kiss is never enough. You've got to invest the time in the relationship. Otherwise, it's going to go nowhere. You're giving up too soon. 6, 7, 8 conversations, 6, 7, 8 touches, 6, 7, 8 communications with people before the relationship starts to blossom. I think too many of us give up too soon. I've met John 2 times and, nothing's happening. He says he's going to refer me, but nothing happens. And the reason why maybe nothing happens is because John's not answering those questions I've given you. He's a secret. He's staying home all the time. He's not having breakfast. He's not having lunches. He's not having drinks at the bar. He's not going to networking functions. He's not here tonight. He's hiding from the world. He doesn't know anybody. Or he's run out of people that he can introduce you to because he's got a small network. So you've got to have all those things in the back of your mind. Anyway, so Sam and I went off to Bali, and we stuck up there for 14 days, and there were no fights. It was all good fun. And it wasn't too long after that we moved in together, and it wasn't too long after that, and I woke up one morning and I said, hey babe, this is good, I love you, let's get married, what do you reckon? She said, yes. Well, that's kind of how business relationships kind of work, isn't it? I think. The good thing about business is you can have lots of relationships. In my personal life, I can only have one, otherwise I'm in trouble. So there you go. I didn't come here to lecture you. I hope I haven't. I've come here tonight to get you thinking. Because if you're like the vast majority of business owners, you're not doing enough of this. You're not doing it consistently well enough. You're not making those one-to-ones work for you. You're not walking away from those one-to-ones you're not walking away with a commitment to do something for each other, to promote each other. I'll never forget Steve Churchman. Who knows Steve? He's been in the banking industry for years. There's got to be someone who knows Steve Churchman in the room here. I ran into him the other day. I did a talk at the Western Australian Club here years ago, and I sat next to Steve at lunch, and he liked what I had to say. He said, Ron, that was really good. He said, give us a 50-word rap on your business. I said, what's a rap? He said, tell me what you do and who you do it for. And I said, what for? He said, I'm going to stick it as a PS on all my letters that go out to people. This was in the 90s. There was no email and LinkedIn and stuff like that. He said, I'm going to introduce you to all my clients at the bank. I said, Steve, that's bloody fantastic, terrific. I said, if I send you this thing, will you actually do? He said, yeah. So Steve still does today. He works for the National Australia Bank. Puts me as a PS on a whole bunch of his emails and correspondence going out to people. And I did the same thing for him. So if you want a decent banker, if you need to find the money to grow your business or buy a house or whatever it is, talk to Steve Churchman at the National Bank. He's a ripper. And that's how it works. Now, can I go home now? Thank you for listening.
Does anyone have questions they want to ask publicly? Because I'm sure Ron is happy to answer individual questions. Elle?
Hi, Elle from Any Solutions. I just not another question, but more of a share. I would recommend everybody read The Go-Giver by Bob.
So would I. Yep. Yep.
Fabulous book.
Fantastic book. Elle, is that right?
Yes,
Yeah, he's very... Bob Berg, The Go-Giver. He's written several books. He's got a fantastic blog and all that kind of stuff. Yep. Okay, very good.
Oh, connected.
Yep.
Thanks, Elle. Anyone else? Or else bail the man up individually. Any other questions?
Would you be insulted if I gave you a plug about something I'm doing? You sure? Look, I'm doing a public seminar on Tuesday. If you want to find out about it, if you think you might want to be there, if you think that you might know a few people who should be there, I've just given you the tip of the iceberg tonight. But if you go to my website, gonetworking.com.au, you'll find what I'm doing about 2 workshops called Profitable Networking and Endless Referrals. Bob Berg. Endless Referrals. And if you're interested, have a look and see what it does. And if you can come along, that'd be great. If you can't, that's okay too. Thank you.
All right, so our appreciation for Ron Gibson. Thanks so much, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, everything's working here, but not there, and that's okay. So we'll just have a quick wrap up because we're almost at the end of the event. For those of you who aren't members, guests, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about what this is and how it might work for you. And I'd just like to say a quick thank you to a few members who helped me out at the live events. Kiralee Heath, Narelle Manser-Smith, Norrie, where is she? There she is, filling the wine. The glass is full of wine. Excellent. And Pam Accurso. And many of you also do informal things for me, and I am always honoured by all the support and assistance I receive because I certainly can't do this on my own. So thank you. Yes. Thank you to those people. Thanks. So what you need to do, and I can't, that is way too small for me to read, so I'm going to read it up here. What you need to do is confirm with one person you've met today a face-to-face meeting outside of this monthly meeting. You need to connect with Ron Gibson. He's here in the room. So please put into practice what one thing that he suggested for us all, myself included. Our next meeting is on the 14th of October. John Bellamy is coming over from Brisbane. He is Australia's #1 LinkedIn expert. I'm using a very, very, very small version of one of his LinkedIn strategies, and it works. Also, on my own LinkedIn strategy, I've experimented with the PS. Very, very powerful. It works. And that's it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm available to both members and guests. I'm sure Ron will be available for the duration of the evening. For those of you who haven't been here before, now it is just purely open networking for you to have the opportunity to finish off the food and partake in the wine. But seriously, to connect with that person across the room that you may not have been able to speak to, and you know you've got something that you want to share. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next month.
So do you normally give talks?